So, hi, we are here with Assad of Genesis, Battle of Champions. Sorry, my headphones keep popping out. Welcome. Thank you for coming on the channel. Thank you for talking with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to do this conversation. I actually heard about you quite a few times before us even meeting. So when Bronson mentioned your name and we started the conversation, I was already like, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I know about you. I know.
Well, it's nice to know the reputation precedes me. If at least it's positive, mostly, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely
So
good
yeah,
things floating around.
we've just got a few quick questions. I've been combing through your website, going through some other previous posts, and I just came up with a few things that I think perhaps haven't been covered. And if they have, I'd love to link the people that covered them previously in other interviews.
All right.
But we're talking about your game, Genesis Battle of Champions.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that is what we're here for. You've got a Kickstarter live for the newest set called Origins. So
Yeah.
that is still up. I believe it has 26 or 25 days left to go at the time of recording, which is
29.
December 9th.
I think 29 days.
29?
To be
Okay, it
honest.
might be a little bit
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
I might have been
January
doing math
7th.
based on earlier
Yeah.
stuff, and I'm bad at math. So as we
No
as we can
worries.
all
No
see, I just released another video with me and Bronson playing another game, and we're very bad at math. But yeah, so we're here to talk about Genesis, your Kickstarter, and just kind of some concepts about the game that I'm very interested in personally, and I think
All
other
right.
people might find interesting to talk about. But
Nice.
my first question, actually, it has nothing to do, well, not nothing to do with Genesis, but it does have something to do a little bit off topic. The company name is Haunted Castle Gaming, and I don't know if you've been asked this before, but I just keep looking at it at the bottom of the cards, and I'm like, when did this name come about, and how did you get to Haunted Castle Gaming and creating a game called Genesis? Because they
Nice.
they just they seem like they were not a mismatch, but they seem very different.
So I've talked about this briefly in some other channels. Scheming Skeleton, we did an entire Halloween episode about this. So I started my game design journey. Like I started it really little when I was maybe 7 or 8 with my brothers. But when I started taking it more seriously, I was in high school at this time, and I went to a high school called Galt Collegiate Institute and Vocational School in Cambridge, Ontario. And this school is known for two things. One, it looks like a castle. It is beautiful. It is
Awesome.
super old. It's 150 plus, like it's older than Canada. Uh, and then the second part to it is that it's haunted. Our school mascot is a ghost.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
so, as an homage to where I started as Haunted Castle Gaming, that's where I started taking collectible card games a lot more seriously when I started designing my first TCG. It's a beautiful school. I actually took my wife and the art director Damian when he was visiting. I took both of them to walk around the campus, and I was like, "Yeah, I love this school. It's like I'm attached to my university, University of Toronto, but GCI that was it's just such a wonderful
Yeah,
school.
it's got a
So
special place in your heart. Hence it
yes,
being the name of the company. Yeah. Oh my God. No,
yeah,
that's such a cool story. I love castles. Me and my wife have gone to Scotland multiple times just to see a bunch of castles. So I love that. I love the fact now I've got another one to just put on that list. Trip to
it's not
Canada,
gonna be
and
to
we're
the
going
same
we're going there.
caliber. You'll be like, oh yeah, it's not as nice as the one in Scotland or Ireland or Europe, but it was built like I was saying before Canada was formed. It was originally supposed to be a training like a cadet school for army and or like kids going through the reserves,
Okay.
and then it became a boarding school, and then eventually became what is that called, where they started bringing in just both boys and girls, co-ed,
Oh yeah.
and then it became public, and then it just started expanding. It's such a rich history of a school. So when I was attending school there, we celebrated our 150 years. Like the school was around for 150 years when I was in grade 10.
Oh wow.
And it was a cool thing to be part of that history.
Yeah, yeah, to be there for that moment. It's
Yeah.
it's just a year to a lot of people, but like that it's really cool to be there for something that's, a celebration of something that is so dear to your heart too. So, yeah, that's awesome to hear. I'm really glad I put that, and I will have to find Scheming Skeletons video for Halloween. I'll have to go back and watch that.
Yeah.
Okay, so on to more focused on the game.
All right. All
So this
right.
new set is called Origins, but it's not actually the first set released. So a lot of
Yeah.
people might be coming into it now because you guys are gaining a lot of traction with this Kickstarter.
Yeah.
You've had a pretty big boom, especially in your first day, funded in under 30 seconds. First of all, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
that's
Thank you.
a pretty impressive amount of time, not even a minute, and you went from zero to funded.
Yeah.
So first of all, congrats on that. But this is not the first set released, so a lot of people might not know. But you actually had released alpha, I believe it was 2017, with an
Yes.
extremely small print run just at a convention. So
Yep.
how has it been taking this game from your initial testing phases, your alpha launch, your beta launch, and everything in between, and now you are here with Origins, which a lot of people obviously the word Origins is it's beginning. So is
Yeah.
this kind of where the game is truly beginning, or what was the name choice here?
So there's a few different levels to this. One is that the game itself was originally supposed to be called Origins. Like when we
Oh,
play tested it 15 years ago, the first time I ever took a TCG that I was designing and gave it a name for the game, it
hmm
was called Origins. And for a long time, that's what it was called. I even have an old email between me and Lionel, who's my best friend and did a lot of the playtesting early days. And it's like, hey, I finally figured out a name for our card game. Let's call it Origins Battle of the Champions. And then we changed it over to Genesis shortly after. Uh, so there's that part to it. Another is when we dig into the lore. The lore we've been exploring is the New World lore, like
hmm
the south of Jalara. Um, a lot of the you can kind of think of that lore as kind of like North America, where
hmm
yes, we have a history, but we're a very young
Oh yeah,
country, like Canada and US, compared to like China and India, right? Or
yes,
even a lot of Europe. Like
extremely young.
they have so much more history. So what we've explored so far in the southern part of Jalara, they're very very young settlements, just a few hundred years old.
hmm
And when we go to the north, where Origins is taking place in the city of Anahata, um, some of the like the leader of the elves and the leader of the vampires, Minot and Kasha, they were there at more or less the birth of the world,
Okay,
and they were some of the first beings to walk the world, and they were there in the initial war that caused the divide, that caused the world to go into chaos and anarchy, and they they survived that fight,
yeah,
and now they are leaders of their own race. So it's a lot about that history piling up and getting to a tipping point
yeah.
where all of a sudden the where it was supposed to be settled peacefully and politically,
Mm,
the strife between elves and vampires, it has now turned into a civil war within that
yeah.
city.
All out
So
war. It was a little Cold War before, and now.
yeah, like, and now it's so you got that part about it, and then on top of that, it's about also where we're at as a company.
hmm
The earlier sets, Alpha. I actually had a conversation about Alpha recently. A lot of people don't realize when I launched Alpha in 2017 with the 30 starter kits, I hadn't quit my full time job. I
Yeah.
wasn't doing this full time yet. I literally brought those starter kits to the convention, being like, I might sell about 4 or 5 of them, and then next year I'll come back with the starter kits and booster packs and everything.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'll decide if I want to quit my job. But we had such a demand for the product that I ended up quitting my job, putting in my 2 weeks, well, 4 weeks notice at that point,
Yeah.
into the company right after the convention. Alpha was a test fire of do people even like Genesis?
Yeah.
Are we ready for the market? Can I go and present this game in front of a bunch of strangers and have the confidence and the courage to do that?
Yeah.
Right? It was so a lot of that alpha stuff was okay. This is and even when we launched alpha, like the starter kits,
Yeah.
we only had 30 of the 90 cards completed. Like 60 cards were still in the testing phase.
Yeah.
We didn't have artwork or anything. We were when we got a new batch of artwork done, then we did a new wave of booster packs where we launched those cards to the market. Like alpha was very
Alpha was
patchwork
very
of a set.
alpha.
Yeah, it lived true to that name. And then beta was okay, we now figured out all the cards there. We want to do a mass printing. Let's go learn how to do that. And that's what beta was about. each set was about developing our skills and taking new areas that are fundamental for this industry, and learning how to do those, making our mistakes, learning from our competitors, learning from our past, and learning from our partners on how to improve, and then doing the next set a little bit better, a little
Yeah.
bit better. Now we're at a point where all those fundamentals, we haven't mastered them, and we're at that point where we're still learning, but we've done them enough times that we're confident that we can provide a product that is of
Uh,
quality for what people are expecting right now.
yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of alpha and beta and everything up to this is not only the beginning of the game itself, but also kind of the test for you guys as well to
Yeah,
see. I mean, alpha literally was a test for you personally to see if you can present the game, to see if not only
yeah,
does the game have, the metal to stick it out in the market, but if you were ready for making this jump from a stable regular income to
yeah,
being just jumping off the deep end and going right into this card game, which is it's
yeah.
very impressive. I don't think a lot of people recognize what kind of like personal courage it takes to do something like
Hmm.
that. So
Yeah.
if somebody hasn't realized how big of a leap that is for you right now and they're listening to this, you should realize how absolutely just crazy that
Yeah.
can feel sometimes, because if you haven't done
Um,
something like that,
yeah.
it's a big jump. It's a big
At
jump.
at that point, it was a very intense moment because both me and my wife had quit our stable jobs to pursue our life goals. So
Wow.
I started this company. My wife always wanted to teach in the public sector.
Okay.
Yeah, in the public. She was in private for a
Yeah.
long time, but they were saying she wouldn't be able to get the growth she was looking for anytime soon.
Yeah, she kind of just be
And
stuck
her
where she was.
dream, yeah, so her dream was to always jump into the public. So there was a short period of time where she hadn't been hired by the public school board yet, and I was doing this, and we're just like, yeah, this is a huge, huge risk.
Yeah, you've got your plank of
Uh,
wood and you're just knocking on wood like, please, please,
yeah,
please, please work out.
yeah,
One or
like
both,
it was.
please.
It was a very, very intense period, and it's still intense. It's not like all of a sudden, because of this Kickstarter or because of how getting distribution last year, all of a sudden all of our
Oh yeah,
worries
not
are
at
gone.
all.
There's still a lot of work ahead of us before any stability really comes from it. But at the same time, like it's been a wonderful journey, and I've enjoyed it a lot. And then the other side to it is there's a reason why we didn't take investment early on. Uh, all those mistakes, all those trials, all those tribulations we had in those early years, it was very important that I did that on my own dollars. I did that with my own sacrifice.
Yeah.
When there were months when it was like I have to make some sales or this company is gonna go under and I have to bankrupt it, it really forced me to all of a sudden learn skills that I knew nothing about.
Yeah.
It forced me to talk to people who I had to talk to, even though I may not have been 100% comfortable doing it.
Yep. You weren't
Uh,
confident, you weren't ready, but you had to do it.
yeah,
Crucible, it just puts you in the crucible and put the
yes.
fire underneath you.
Yeah, so I'm really happy I did those things because over those years, I've learned how to approach really difficult conversations. I've learned how to handle very challenging partnerships and walk out feeling like it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Uh, and now moving forward, as we grow, as we scale, there's a lot of pressure on me. There's a lot of time. The
Absolutely.
past several nights, I've had nightmares every single night because I'm so stressed out. But at the same time, I know I can handle this. I
Yeah.
know I have the tools under my belt to do what is necessary to
Yeah.
make this
You've already
company
got
succeed.
alpha, you've got beta, you've got everything under your belt. You're like, look back at that and just be like, I'm not there anymore. I have completed
Yeah,
so much already. We've got this. Yeah.
yeah,
I think that's actually I think your point is really good that you have already done so much of this. Your game has already been through so many phases of existence before you've hit this landmark. I mean, to say, I mean, funded in 30 seconds is one thing, but just the amount of money you've raised already and you've still got, the 29 days to go or however many we're at right now,
yeah.
which I will recreate an end clip to this video and accurately portray how many days there are. I will get the actual days.
I think more importantly, people talk a lot about the dollar figure. The dollar figure is always valuable. I think the more important thing to walk out of when it comes to this Kickstarter is look how many people are backing us. Look
Yeah, the
how
number of
many
backers. Yep.
the number of backers, the growth in our YouTube channel, the growth in our Facebook following. All those numbers are very valuable because the dollar figure tells you about our current success, where what we can do today. But the backer number, the YouTube growth, the Facebook growth, the Discord growth, that talks about the future potential.
Yep.
Where can we be 6 months from now, a year from now? Are we going to be hosting another championship that has, sub 100 people, or are we going to host the next championship and it's going to be over 1,000 people?
Yeah.
Right? That's the key. Is I want to make sure that this investment isn't just looking about the present, but looking about the next 5 years.
The future of the game. Yeah. And just so I opened the Kickstarter right now. You do have 29 days to go. You were absolutely right. And you have 586 backers as of 2:03 p.m. on December 9th. So yeah, definitely you've got a healthy amount of backers as well as like we said the actual the monetary goal. But yeah, you've got almost 600 backers and almost a whole month to go. So yeah, that's definitely pointing towards the future health of the game.
Yeah.
My next question kind of ties into that as well. You guys have a playtesting program that rewards people who actively participate in playtesting future sets, the Future League.
Yep.
What kind of advantages, disadvantages have you found to this? What I would definitely say is a non-traditional way to test a game. Most companies, as far as I'm aware, like to keep their testing in-house or with private groups. But you are kind of putting it out there and saying, hey, if you really like our game, please come to us. Tell us what you think about these new cards, and we'll throw you some promos and stuff like that. So how has that been working out for you guys?
It's going exactly as I planned it, and it is awesome. So something that a lot of people, when I first started doing like interviews and conversations, people know a lot about my career history, but that's been fading away. I don't talk about it as much, but I spent the past 10 years in the software quality assurance space. Being a tester was my lifeblood. I did panels, I did blogs, I did vlogs. I tried to be a thought leader in that space. Software testing is very, very challenging, especially when you're in the healthcare space. Because in healthcare, that bug that made it go from 1.0 to 0.1, that's life or death.
That's
in
bad.
A hospital.
That could be very bad.
That is extremely bad. So being able to understand what is your what is passable, what is your pass criteria and all that kind of stuff is extremely valuable when having those conversations. One of the things I took away from that is the understanding that no matter how good of a software tester you are, no matter how educated you are in the ability to find all the nuances in your software, you are never going to be better than the person who's going to be using your software.
Yep.
Because the person who's using the software, that's the person it's intended for. And especially when they're domain knowledge experts like nurses and pharmacists and doctors, they will know why it's so critical that something like warfarin does not interact with ibuprofen. Right? You won't know this because you have no education.
That's not your expertise,
yeah. But when they're like, hey, this should have given it a warning on the software because these two medications shouldn't interact, you become humble at that moment and you realize the best way you can deliver quality for your software is, one, to do the testing you're confident in, but two, to encourage the end user to give their feedback to you before the product is official, before it goes live. And that's what Future League's about. The people who truly care about the game, the people who are talking about it regularly and who are passionate about the future success about Genesis are all in Future League. And we do not ask them to sign an NDA. We do not ask them to close off that communication in any way whatsoever. All we ask is, if you're talking to someone who does not want spoilers, don't spoil things.
Don't spoil it for them. Come on.
Yeah, don't do that. But if you are part of that Future League community, obsess about it. Think about it. We actually sanction, in our organized play, we sanction Future League tournaments.
Oh,
we want you to be playtesting those cards as much as possible, because once they go to print, it's so much harder to fix it
Oh
later.
yeah, yeah. Once you hit yes print, it's like oh
Yep.
any mistakes, you might as
Yep.
well just call it a day.
Yeah. And that's why up to this point, I'm so grateful and so happy that we've only banned one card that was in alpha. And we've been able to talk to our community regularly about cards that they are super concerned about, that they feel should be banned. And we've been able to set criteria. Here is what you need to do in Future League. This is what we need to see on tournament play. This is what we need to see in casual play for us to decide if this card needs to get banned.
Yeah.
And up to this point, we've had a few erratas because typos happen.
Yep,
We're
typos
human.
happen.
But
A comma
we
should have been
only
here and
had
it wasn't. Huh?
yep. We've had only one banned card in all of Genesis thus far, and that's been amazing.
That's impressive.
And this is something we want to set as a status quo for our game moving forward.
Yeah.
Is that if we can go forward and never have to ban a card, then it just shows that Future League works. That
Yeah.
this principle of encourage your community to be the advocates for the game that they're playing.
Yeah.
That is invaluable.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm glad that I'm glad I asked that, because I think Future League is a really interesting idea. When I came upon that, I was like, this is new. This is not what other people do, and I really do. I like it, and hearing more about it, I like it even more. I liked it because I was like, oh, it's a cool way for players to get promos.
Yeah.
But this is the idea behind it is even more.
I got a lot of pushback in the early days. I'll be honest. There were
Yeah.
a lot of people who were telling me this was, it's not status quo. You should not be doing this. I'm like, hey, we do this in the healthcare space,
Oh,
and
man.
that's why our software does not kill people. So if it works appropriately in the healthcare space, I mean, come on, let's do it in the.
There's
TCG
got to be a
space.
way to do it somewhere else too. Yeah. And I definitely really enjoy hearing that your thought process behind it wasn't so much like this is a good way to kind of we can keep our team focusing on something else. It was more designed around, I want to get this the best way that we can do it, and it just happens to be offloading this work onto somebody else that is passionate about the game as well, and rewarding them with the game that they're here because they like the game, so give them more of the game and give them sneak peeks and promos and stuff. So yeah. I'm definitely going to link the Future League link in the description. So if anybody is into Genesis and you want to get more into Genesis, that might be a way to do it.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of the website, and speaking of me dropping links to it, you guys have a really well put together website, and a good amount of people interested in the game. It still seems to be kind of underground in a way. I was wondering what you guys have for strategies to bring the game to the forefront of the market, especially with 2021 being this huge rise in TCGs just across the board. There's so many popping out, and you guys have been around for a while, so you're not one of those ones that's just coming out of the woodwork this year. You've been around, you're established, but it's definitely still like a game that you know about and friends tell each other, but we're not seeing you guys on the major TCG websites, and I was just wondering what your thoughts are on that, and where you think how we're going to take the company to the front of the TCG market, if that's even the goal.
So our goal is always, one big part of it is to supersede what we've done in the past. We want to be better than ourselves. I like the adage of the only true competitor you have in the industry is yourself. So whatever we're doing today, we're making sure we're doing better than where we were yesterday, and tomorrow we're going to be better than where we are today.
Okay.
So that's one perspective. The other is to grow within our means. Okay. There are a lot of companies and a lot of different industries who find themselves with, all of a sudden they see an influx of capital, they see an influx of demand, and they start doubling down on it. They want to grow as quickly as possible because the more money in, the more successful you are.
Yep.
However, if you have so many clients, so many partners around the world, and you don't have the networks in to maintain communication, to make sure that they are working with your product and are an advocate for your product every step of the way, then it's going to start crumbling underneath you. And then you're going to find yourself in a reactive approach instead of proactive approach. We've already seen that. Our expansion into Europe, though it's been successful, there's been a lot of challenges with it because we do not know how we have struggled with communication with our European partners.
Yeah, it's a very
And
different ball game over
the,
there.
yeah, like it is, and the more you expand, like we have one store that's in Hong Kong, and they're like, hey, we love your game. We want, can you send us some promos and some posters that we could put up in the store? I was like, awesome. Let me send that to you. Shipping out that way is not cheap. It was
No.
definitely quite a challenge getting everything over, trying to get things there. And then the package got lost along the way,
Ugh.
and it's like, okay, now what? And so being able to stay on top of situations like that, it requires quite a bit of dedicated strategy. And if you start leapfrogging that process and growing faster than you have the staff or the resources to maintain that, then all of a sudden you're going to see branches of your company fall apart. And as one branch falls apart, then the other ones are going to lose confidence.
Yep.
And I'm not saying we won't find ourselves in this situation. It could happen, but we are trying our best every step of the way to make sure that as we grow, we are putting in the foundational structures to make sure that we're building on something solid.
Yeah.
Instead of just growing for the sake of growing.
Yeah, building your house from the bottom up and instead of trying to build a tree house where you're just putting everything up at the top. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're definitely okay. So focusing on the company's core abilities and making sure that everything is solid before you're moving on to the next market. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a good strategy.
It is.
It's good to hear also from like a consumer standpoint because a lot of people, and especially now, like I was saying, with all these companies just popping up out of the middle of nowhere and having TCGs, and they're all suddenly extremely collectible, and everything is limited print run and all this kind of stuff. But you are designing this game with the express purpose of, like we were talking before, you were saying with the print runs, you want the game to be accessible for everybody. You want to build the game. There is collectability, but you want to build the game because the reason the game continues is because it is a playable game. If you can't play the game, or there's no reason, there's no incentive to play the game because you keep everything sealed in a closet waiting for the day to be like, oh, well, doubled in value, sell it now. You're not going to have people actually enjoying the content that you're creating. And why are you putting all this, I mean, from my perspective, why would you want to put in all this work on Future League, on designing, on everything like that if you're just going to distribute a product and everybody's going to be like, thank you for giving me this box, I put it in my closet, I'll see you in 2 years. So yeah, it's definitely good to hear your thoughts on that and how you want to build the company and keep that solid foundation even as you continue to rise. Build this skyscraper or this tree of a company. You're growing from the roots and not just spanning out a bunch of branches that are just going to fall.
So something I'd like to add on that actually is when I first started building the company about 2 years before I launched, I was doing some business research, and one of my friends asked me, do some research on the previous games that have hit the market. What are the successes and failures? And why did so many games fail? Because if you've done the history in CCG market, there have been hundreds and hundreds of games that hit the market. But really, realistically, there's only been 3 that have seen monumental success. About 3 or 4 that are in the mid-range. And then for a long time, I was below the mid-range. I was that small little ant that was just struggling
along.
And when I looked at them, there was 2 things that popped up. One was a lot of these games were creators, inventors who were like, I created this really cool mechanic for a TCG. Let me make this TCG and put it out there. Instead of entrepreneurs being like, I have created a really cool business structure that supports this TCG and puts it out there. So building business first and product second compared to product first and business second. So that was one mistake that I saw in a lot of TCGs. And then the other was, in the same vein, not understanding how your company is growing. So a lot of TCGs, and you'll see this, if you ever watch a TCG where in the first year, the first year after getting explosive growth, they're like, oh, we're going to start hosting events and we're going to give X amount of prize support, like $10,000 is prize support. And then the next year, they're like, yeah, we can only give 5,000 for prize support.
Yep.
That's usually a pretty interesting indicator of what happened in that company, and it's because they didn't look at what their finances look like. They did not look at. Actually, I shouldn't say that. They may
They
have,
may have, but
but
they misjudged
from the
something there.
yeah, yeah, there was definitely from the outside looking in. There's definitely something that was missing in the strategy when planning out your financial roadmap. And that's why I'm so grateful for like the mentor I have and the fact that I focus a lot more on growing the business, like making
Yeah.
that Haunted Castle Gaming succeeds. And I actually, to sometimes to great sadness, but 99% of the time to much, much joy, I've handed off a lot of the game design stuff over to Alex Miller, who is
Yeah.
our lead game designer, because even though I miss it a lot, and I love the game design stuff. Um, he, if he can focus on that, and I can focus on actually making the company succeed, then together we can put out, we can stay around for the next five
Yeah.
to 50 years,
Yeah,
right?
and that's more important than you feeling good in the short term, being like, I'm designing
Yeah,
the game. Yes.
yeah,
Because it doesn't
yeah,
matter if you design the game and have a lot of fun personally for a year. If the game fails after that year, you're not going to have any fun after that for quite a while because
yeah,
as I'm sure you have a lot sunk into this. Obviously, just the leap that you've made from software to this, yeah, it would be very hard to you can't just be like, oh well, my card game failed. I guess I'm gonna go back to my old job. They're not. It doesn't work that way. So yeah, that's it's very interesting to talk about that and to it's not as I suppose what a lot of people would say is fun and sexy to talk about the business side of things, but it is just as important, if not more important than the
yeah,
game. Obviously, if either are failing, you have a problem. But you it doesn't matter how great your game is if your business is not functioning properly. Like you said, you could have an amazing game, but if you do price support here and then your game it just
yeah,
doesn't matter how good the game
yeah,
is. There are a lot of dead games that people love to play still, but
yeah,
it doesn't mean there's another set coming out.
yeah.
Okay, so let's see. My next question. The recycling program. I saw you guys post, I think it was in a Kickstarter update, this
Yes.
concept for receiving product back to recycle or reuse. I am a huge proponent of recycling and having systems in place that actually recycle our waste rather than kind of what, especially I know in America, is a huge problem where we put a lot of things in the recycling bin and only, less than 10% of it actually gets recycled.
Yeah.
And I know this is kind of a concept for you guys in the future, but I was wondering what your thoughts on it were, what the concept came from, or how you might develop it in the future.
Uh, so a lot of the concept it just comes back to the fact that as an industry, we've gotten too comfortable with excess
Yeah,
in pursuit of gold, right? Like a lot of games have shifted towards this concept that you have to buy an exuberant amount of product to get one card that is extremely valuable to you.
yeah,
And this does work as a business model, but the downstream impacts are um, less eco-friendly.
yeah,
And as I looked at Genesis, one of the design principles we have is we want people to use as much of their collection as possible. That's
hmm,
why there's no limitations on the number of copies of a card in a deck, right?
okay,
If you want to run 7 copies of that card, go for it. And then that way, more of your collection is being used than not, right?
yeah,
And that is something that's very valuable to me. Uh, when what we're seeing now, and it's just there's I don't want to it's difficult to talk about this without it sounding like I'm blaming people, but I'm not.
yeah,
It's the way uh in the heat of the moment, through some excitement, something like that, people make decisions that may not always be the most beneficial to the long-term impact of our environment.
yeah,
So things like booster pack wrappers, very easily we find those in garbage bins.
yep,
I've seen them or walking around the park nearby my house. People buy a pack of Pokemon cards, they throw the wrapper on the ground,
rip
and
it,
keep on
toss it,
moving
go.
on. If we can incentivize people to hold on to those items and then drop them off to us or ship them to us or something like that, that it can then be recycled and put to a better use, then that is at least one step in the right direction.
Yeah.
There are a lot of logistical problems. Like, is it actually more environmentally friendly to have those products shipped to us when there is, trucks that are driving down the road
Yep.
with
Yeah.
these baggage of
This extra
wrappers,
load on
right?
their truck, the weight of this product, with the carbon
Yeah,
emissions of that, and then the recycling of it. Yeah, you have
yeah.
to think about all of it.
There is a lot more to the conversation than just say let's just recycle, right?
Yep.
Like, it's not as cut and dry. However, we can't start making that positive impact until we actually start,
Yeah, you
right?
have to
You have
think
to
about
start
that before
somewhere.
you can say, "Oh, we'll
Uh,
change this."
yeah. So you have to start somewhere. You have to start doing the research and having those conversations. I was actually really excited to hear from our printers that the ink that they use and the paper that's being used is, at least in Canada, is 100% recyclable up
Oh,
here.
wow.
So the cards can just go straight into recycling.
Yeah.
However, foil cards are a little bit different because they have a metallic layer.
Yep.
So that can't go get recycled with paper. That might have to be recycled a little bit differently. And
Mhm.
we're learning more information as we go on. So the more information we have, the more we can pass on to the players, the better. However, not every player is gonna be like, "Oh, I can recycle these cards. So let's just start recycling." It's
Yeah.
hard to change those habits, but there is ways to incentivize some habit changes by saying, "Hey, if you come to a championship event, you come to a tournament we're hosting or a convention we're at, and you drop off your bulk, we'll give you promos in return. Then we're converting your large collection of 1,000 cards down to maybe 10 cards.
Mhm.
So it's a lot easier for you to carry those around. And then we can take those cards and either reuse them by distributing them out to brand new players. If someone comes to our booth and is like, "Hey, I love this game. Where do I get some products?" It's like, "Here's
Here,
a bulk bin. You could just
free
start
bulk.
grabbing cards out of here. Take whatever you want." So we can reuse those, or we can recycle them in the long run.
Yeah.
So it gives us options. At least gives us a chance to try to make a bit better difference,
Yeah.
right?
And I
Uh,
immediately, when I saw this post, I was like, I need to bring this up in the interview because I think even these small steps that you're taking here, even just honestly, even just the thought of it is commendable because, like we were saying, you have to think about these things. You have to think about the logistics of like how you're going to do this and what you're doing. And
yeah,
that conversation immediately, once you say, I want to change something, it is 100% harder than not changing something. So it's this huge hurdle that you have to overcome
hmm
that isn't immediately necessary to your company's success.
yeah,
Which is a lot. Well, a lot of people in the business world would say, "Oh, well, if it's not immediately necessary, like don't do it. Focus on exactly
yeah,
what is necessary right now. If it ain't broke, don't fix
yeah,
it." Kind of mentality, which is,
yeah,
as we said, like very harmful in the long run. These downstream effects of this thought process of like, oh well, it works, go. It works, go. It's making
yeah,
us more money, go.
yeah,
So I wanted to bring that up one because I'm a huge proponent of making everything that we do a little bit more environmentally friendly, and
hmm
as environmentally friendly as we can, honestly. And I just wanted to bring it up to,
yeah,
kind of bring that to the forefront that your company and you are trying to change something in an industry that is, like we said, notorious for waste that is
yeah,
unrecycled, or waste that, even if it is recyclable, isn't being recycled. Like all
yes,
the booster packs have the little recycling logo on them, but they
yeah,
never get recycled because you can't put them in a bin. And if you want to recycle them, you have to take them to specialty facilities that there are, maybe there's not even one in your entire state or your county or wherever
yeah,
you are. You'd have to drive hours to
yeah,
do it, so no one does it. So I think
yeah,
just even your company attempting to try to get that to the forefront of a conversation, to bring that to
yeah,
people's eyes, because a lot of people don't even think about it. So I think that is amazing.
yeah.
And I wanted to thank you for doing that personally,
Thank you.
and on behalf of all those other people that I know that are out there that think about recycling, and it pains them when somebody's just like, yeah, I just threw this away, and you're like, you could have just recycled that. There's a bin like right down the
Yeah,
street. Why didn't you walk it down the
yeah.
bin? um,
It actually takes me back to an earlier conversation I had when I was first launching the game. Not in the same vein. It wasn't about recycling, but it was about the way females are portrayed in gaming. And when we first presented Genesis to our local hobby shops, so there's two hobby shops we did our early testing back in 2015.
yeah.
We did some testing at these shops, and at these shops we put a poster up of the three characters, which are now known as Malik, Idris, and Oni.
Hmm.
And somebody reached out to me and he's like, "I saw your poster at the local game store, and he brings his students to that local game store to explore um, social issues through Dungeons and Dragons. That's his initiative.
Okay.
And it's a very admirable initiative. And he was like, my students had some concerns about your poster, and we were wondering if you were open to have a dialogue about this. So I met with him. It was me, my wife, and Lionel, a best friend of mine, and we met with this person, and he was like, the way you portrayed the females in this poster,
Mhm.
it definitely feels like they're being objectified. It doesn't open up the dialogue of how the women are being represented in the game. And this became a launching point of we need to be more conscientious of
Mhm.
what we're doing when it comes to showing how we portray our characters in the game. Is it comfortable having um having the female characters punch other female characters,
Yeah.
or like the way they're dressed in particular places, and also like how come they're wearing the same clothes over and over again, and giving more variation.
Yeah, more depth
uh
and
the
character.
Yeah, these are things that are aren't easy topics to have. They're not easy things to address. But if we don't start, then it doesn't get better.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to take the heat. I'm willing to have people be very upset with me for trying to do this and not doing it appropriately, because I'd rather try to be better and not get it right the first time, and try to be and get better in the long run,
Yeah.
compared to just settling for
Yeah.
simplicity.
It's
So
better to
uh,
try and be wrong than to just not try at all because,
yeah,
oh, it's a minefield. I don't want to get involved in that. But
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it is definitely something that is plaguing not only the TCG industry but just the board gaming industry in general, which
Yeah.
is something I also I try to confront anything when I see it. I'm like, is this right? Could this be better? Yeah, so I
Yeah.
definitely I'm glad that you brought that up because yeah, it's a huge thing in the industry overall, not even just like the TCG space.
Yeah.
So it's good that we can see that you as a company are trying to just even those incremental changes, just those little bits that you can do better
Yeah.
to do them better.
Yeah.
Whether that gets you flack or not, the
And
attempts are
there
commendable.
have there have been a lot of interesting conversations I've had over
Oh,
the
I'm
years,
sure.
and ones that I've walked away with a lot of self doubt afterwards.
Yeah.
But I am so proud of the art team and the game design team and everyone who touches this project for attempting to try to be better.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's the best we can ask for, right?
Yeah, because
That we
in the end,
try.
that's all you can do. There's
Yeah.
no there's no, oh well, we did this perfectly. It's just, well, we tried better. It was just like you were saying before. The company's goal is to just be better than you were before. Your only competitor
Yes.
is yourself, even in these kind of situations where you are trying to be better. As long as you can keep getting better, that's all you can ask for. You can't out of the gate just be perfect. Be like, oh yeah, we have a problem here, fixed it, done, we're good. The representation of
Yeah.
all of our female characters and any issues there is complete. We are done.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that's gonna be a struggle for
Yeah.
the continuation of the company essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving back to the game, we have
All
five
right.
sets
Heavy topics put aside.
yeah, yeah. Well, we'll put this aside for now. We'll shrug off a little bit of that social responsibility we've been talking about, and just get back to just some easy
All
breezy
right. All
gaming
right.
topics.
Yeah. Yeah.
We
Let's do it.
talked
Let's
about
do
some heavy stuff, recycling and our effect on the environment, and also our effect on the psyche
it.
of our fellow human beings, of the women out there that we portray. We'll
Yeah.
just go back to gaming.
Yes. Let's do it.
We'll
Let's do it.
finish on a lighter note. I mean, we've got a few more questions, but
All right. All right.
okay. So we've got five sets listed on the timeline in the Kickstarter. So you've got multiple ones that you've planned out. I'm assuming
Yes.
in different stages of conceptual design and real
Mm-hmm.
design. So I
Mm-hmm.
imagine the the later sets are mostly conceptual. So the question is mainly about invasion through war, which are listed without the quotation marks on that. I was wondering if that is an intentional inclusion of quotations, where chaos and
Yeah.
anarchy are in quotations because still totally conceptual, and the other ones are, we've got a few cards here. We're at X amount here and there, and I just kind of wanted to talk about your guys's design methods for you've got this long projection of sets, but what at what stages are you planning all of these out?
So, we've been very transparent, and I apologize for anyone who doesn't want these spoilers. So, uh, the storyline for Origins as a set is pretty solid in place. We know all the cards that are going in there. There's some fine tuning in the grammar to make sure that the punctuation and grammar on all the cards is correct.
Yeah.
The artwork, some of them are going back for revision, but I think the set as a whole is about 95% done on the artwork side. We've actually started the artwork for Invasion.
Okay.
We have some of the characters designed. We know what the story is. The story, the actual individual chapters for Origins, Invasion, Collision, and War are not written, but
Okay.
the overarching concept of what the stories are going to
Yeah, you got your
entail.
major plot
Those
points.
are, yeah. And all the foreshadowing required and all the Easter eggs that were required have already been put into earlier chapters.
Oh, beautiful.
So a lot of those things are already seeded in. Origins, I think the chapters are already being outlined and going to start working. So our hope, fingers crossed, is that we'll be able to drop at least the first chapter during the Kickstarter campaign.
Okay.
So Origins as a story arc is already done. The set's more or less completed. It's going into Invasion. We got some of the artwork started. We got some really, really cool pieces. Actually, I'm super, super excited about one of the new champions, but let's focus on Origins.
Yeah, we gotta.
I don't want to spoil.
You're super excited about. We've got something to look forward to after we get our hands on the new set that is coming out right soon.
So this hierarching storyline for Collision is already there. The hierarchy storyline for War is already there. And then Chaos and Anarchy are code names for those sets.
Okay.
So the actual set names haven't been defined, but I've now handed off the remainder of this story arc to Alex and the content team to start writing all the chapters and get everything in place. I have started already putting in the groundworks for the storyline for Chaos, Anarchy, and a few sets afterwards to make sure that that story arc is tied together.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing the high level, like the 10,000 feet up type of concept of what the storyline's going to be about. And then they'll start breaking that down into individual chunks and then have the chapters written out. So we have those written out. And then what we have planned afterwards are... Sorry about that.
Oh, you good.
So we also have more things that are earmarked for the future, but nothing too concrete. Very, very vague concepts of what the next at least another 7 or 8 years of design space it looks like. And part of the reason why we don't talk a lot about that or we don't want to promote that is there's not enough that's concrete in there for us to tell people, hey, we're being over ambitious, right? Like we don't want people to feel that we're shooting our mouth, right, when it comes to what the future of things look like. But if anyone were to ask us, okay, what is our plan for Invasion? How many champions are going to be there, or how many cards? We have those rough ideas in mind. We are working towards all those. At least for the sets that we've written out there, enough that we could say it, not so much that we will say it.
we could talk about those numbers, but we're not going to because I mean, so essentially you've got these sets listed on the Kickstarter timeline, and those are kind of in their maybe their own alpha or beta stages where like there are still going to be a lot of changes made, but we've got this puddle of game here that we would like to we know is there, and we're already working on it.
Yeah. The reason why we have those listed is if you go to the Facebook stretch goals, you'll see that there are 3 Facebook stretch goals, and each of them are related to doing a community submission program for creating cards for Invasion, Collision, and War. So we wanted, when we mentioned those, we want people to know what those are, right?
Yeah.
They're upcoming sets.
Instead of it just being like, names.
Like, what do you mean by war? So we want people to know that, hey, we have these sets planned out. We have slots opened for them. if we can get enough of, if we can hit those Facebook stretch goals,
Yeah.
we want to leverage the community to start submitting their ideas the same way we did with the Origins, to submit their ideas so that they can get some of the best community designed concepts into future sets. Because again, the people who love the game are the ones who are helping craft it, and
Yeah.
we want to give that opportunity to the community. So yeah, we have those things in place. And then as for the reason why we can't do that for Chaos or Anarchy is because there's not enough design of that in
Yeah.
place. That when those winners get their cards submitted, we can't work with them too closely to tell them,
Yeah, because
hey,
the
this is how
rest
it's
of the
going to fit
set
in the
is kind of
lore.
nebulous. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
But at least for invasion, collision, and war, we can definitely do.
Yeah, you've got that framework already established around that. So if somebody comes in with a card, you can be like, yes, this will work with the rest of the set, and not just be some
Yes.
random card that we were like, yeah, it looks pretty good. Let's throw it in there.
Exactly.
Alrighty. So talking about a little bit more about your organized play program. You guys have an organized play program that
Yes.
is a little bit more generous than most. You guys have an OP program that is becoming kind of increasingly uncommon, where you are providing stores free promotional material to give away as prizes and such. That is just becoming. We can see a lot of those programs kind of dwindling, where they used to offer X, now they're offering Y, and then it's going down to Z. How do you feel? One, how do you feel this trend is kind of influencing the industry overall, and what do you think? Your thoughts behind this? I'm assuming it's going to lead back to that the people who are passionate about the game are part of the game, kind of concept that you have. But I want to hear kind of your thoughts on organized play and what the future of organized play for Genesis looks like.
Yeah, it's so the life and the history of a game, and its best path for success is to invest into the players. Invest into people who are coming to the local game store, playing the game regularly. Because if you have a group of 6 people playing a card game, and someone walks into the store and looks over and they're like, "Oh, what's that?" and then they learn how to play the game, it reinvests back into the local game store.
Yep.
So organized play is one of the best ways for a local game store and a community to thrive, grow, and expand. And if we are not willing to invest into that, then who is? Right? We have to be the first step. And that's why we offer the organized play kits to the best of our ability. We're going to keep them as free as possible. It's going to be a little bit challenging when we start working with partners in Europe.
Yeah.
And again, this is what we're saying, the scaling issue. Working with partners in Europe is a little bit more of a challenge, but we are finding ways to make that happen. So regardless, let's putting that aside. I think it's about, at the end of the day, it's about the bottom figure, right? It's about dollars, right? We want to grow a company, and the best way to do that is by having sustainable growth when it comes to sales and purchasing. And the best path for sales is people coming together and playing the game.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's the best continuous path.
Because
if you have a product, like if you have a product that people are only buying at release and then don't buy any more from that product until the next set comes out, then that's not great for the LGS, because then they have 1 month where they do really well, and then a few months where they're doing really poorly, and then they have to stagger their releases and do all these things. We want, ideally, I'd like to see a product that has a spike at release, but its valley is still very lucrative for the LGS, and that its hills are not so dramatically high that it ruins the rest of the release cycle of the product.
Kind of stretch that wave out.
And from my experience, especially when you have booster packs involved, if you make a product where the individual booster packs are fun to open and are valuable for the players, then what you'll see is a lot of times people will come to an event and they're like, oh, I'm winning, this is awesome, let me buy a few packs. Or I just lost, let me improve my deck, let me buy a few packs. And then it's that little purchases that add up every single week if every player is doing that. And that's awesome. That's a great way of supporting the LGSs, right?
Mhm.
At the end of the day, I mean, I say this a lot, but a lot of our decision making comes back to support the LGSs, support the players. They're the backbone of our success.
Yeah.
So if we us giving organized play kits, organized play promos to the stores is a small cause for a greater good of
Mhm.
making those stores succeed. And for example, one of our stores, Heads or Tails, I talk about them a lot. They've been one of our first. They were our oldest partnership so far when it comes to an LGS. They weren't the first; they were the second, but they have been with us consistently throughout the entire project. And when it first started, it was me, the store owner, and the store owner's mom. The three of us would sit down every week and play Genesis, and it was just the three of us.
Yeah, you're just hanging out.
Now, yeah, and now it's he has consistently on the small end. He'll have 6 people come out to play play constructed, and then regularly he gets 10, 12 people playing there,
That's good.
and that's amazing. Like that's so much growth. It's on the same level as his Magic community or his Yu-Gi-Oh community.
Yeah.
That's what we want to see is consistent community growth and an incentive or a reason for the players to want to come out and play.
Yeah.
And so we're doing the best. We're taking the best factors from a lot of other companies' organized play programs, and then adding in a little bit of spice that's our own.
Yeah, yeah. You're taking something that is already existing and going like, but I like it this way.
Yeah.
Changing it up just a little bit, which is great. I think I definitely agree with you on the OP forefront. I have been involved in OP for a little while. I've been running OP for the store that I work at, and when me and a business partner are actually opening up our own store, we are looking to make like OP the backbone of the store because we can
Yeah.
see with the way the industry has been changing, a lot of companies are minimizing their OP or they're changing it so that it's a little bit easier on them. It gets smaller and smaller every year.
Hmm.
We see stores responding to that as well, where they are kind of shying away from investing in OP, and they're essentially trying to ride those peaks and just spreading that money out across the months where they do very little. Um,
Yeah.
Instead of doing what you guys are doing, which is taking your players and saying, "Look, you are what makes us succeed. We can design the best game, but if no one's playing it, no one's buying it, we have nothing to do at the end of the day. You
Yeah.
can play all the games, but if you're not committed to one game and you only buy like $1 of everything, no one's winning. So it's really good to hear that you guys are viewing OP in that way because it seems like and I'm not inside of all these companies. I don't have the
Yeah.
insider knowledge. I'm not wiretapping people's phones, but it seems like a lot of companies are going like, OP, we could cut costs there. Like, yeah. Make more shiny stuff in that booster box, and make a booster tin for that. Let's spend the money there instead of OP. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to hear that you guys as a company are kind of making that like I don't want to say a core value because that has different meaning in business, but you have that as like one of your fundamental building blocks of
Yeah.
building that company from the ground up. So I'm really glad to have brought that up and talked about that. So
Yeah.
I'm out of my questions. So right now, is there anything else you would like to mention specifically, or anything that you think we should have brought up that we didn't? Obviously, we need to remind the viewers about the Kickstarter and everything that's going on there. Like we said, there are 29 days left to go. There are still plenty of rewards that are available. You can still get some amazing stuff for Origins before it releases in that Kickstarter print run. So definitely check them out.
Hmm.
I'm going to link that Kickstarter in the description. I'll also try to see if I can make it pop up on the screen as well when I edit this video. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, is there anything you wanted to bring up in specific that we might have missed?
I Nothing. I mean, a lot of the things that are the messages that I like reiterating, I think we hit on pretty hard, which is support your local game stores, play the games, like
Yeah,
actually play your game.
open the product and
Um,
play the game.
yeah, yeah. Support the content creators. That's a big message out there that I think needs to be reiterated a lot because the more content I've been trying to create, I'm like, wow, yeah, these content creators, it's so
Everybody tries to
much
make it look
work.
so easy, but it's a lot of
Yeah,
work.
it's a lot of work. So I think foundationally, you can only go so far as an individual company. You need the support of LGSs and content creators to help get the message out there. So that's why we actually have our third party playlist. Every time I see a video come out from someone else, I put it into our third party playlist so you can watch all those videos
Yeah, I
from
saw
other
that. That's
content
really
creators,
cool,
good or
actually.
bad. Like I don't care if you are bashing Genesis to the fullest, I will still take your video and
I'll
put it
put it
into
in
that
there. It's a
playlist.
third-party video. It
Yeah,
qualifies.
exactly. And the then on top of that, I actually have that playlist in the Kickstarter. So every time you come to the Kickstarter, if there's a new video that I've added to the playlist, that's
It
the
like
one that's
pops up
gonna be on
there.
the front.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I just want people supporting everyone who's been supporting us throughout the process. And then yeah, it's support the Kickstarter. But a big thing that I like putting out there about the Kickstarter is we're not a new game, which means there's product on store shelves that you can go buy, play, see how much you enjoy the game
And then
before
come to the
backing the
Kickstarter.
Kickstarter. Yeah. You don't have to go into this blind. You can play it in person with buying the JLR second edition two-player starter kit, or you can go onto Tabletop Simulator, join newbie nights every Sunday night, learn how to play. I actually heard there was a spontaneous newbie night on Tuesday night, I think it was, where a group of people came together and started playing. So
And just hosted it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Just learn to play the game, understand it, see if it's the right game for you before backing it.
Yeah.
Because
No
I'm
need to
confident
just
in Genesis.
take
Yeah,
that Kickstarter risk that we all know
yeah,
is out there. And
yeah.
just throw your money at a game that you haven't played yet. Feel free. Yeah, it's going to be on
Yeah.
Tabletop Simulator, and actually, if you are looking for two-player starter kits, I'm going to link those below. My store, Fab Arsenal, will actually be selling them. I actually just got some
Nice.
in, so we will have those on the store, and
Oh,
we ship out as fast as possible, generally within about a
yeah.
day. And our shipping rates are pretty competitive,
Yeah,
even outside of the U.S., where we ship from.
yeah,
So if you're in another country, if you're in Europe and you're having trouble getting product, we ship pretty competitively across the pond. But
yeah.
yeah. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for talking with us. Thanks for hanging out. I didn't think this was going to keep you for a whole hour, but I think it was a good conversation. So guys, check out the Kickstarter, check out the game. Even if you're not, you don't have to immediately go back to Kickstarter, but definitely check out Tabletop Simulator, and they have a Discord as well, so you can get involved in the community before you go and back. And the community is awesome.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for, like I said, thank you for coming out, and you guys all have a good day, and definitely go support Genesis.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.